On this video, I'm going to clean out my VHS-C camcorder here. On this video, I'm going to talk about what my favorite movies during the 80s decade and perhaps even the 90s. But in the 80s decade, I would say probably my all-time favorite movie in the 80s decade. I have a lot of VHSs here. I've been collecting a lot of these things lately, but anyway. Here, well, let me see. Well, like some of these are newer, but I mean, this is just some of the stuff I have. But anyway, I mean, to sum it all up, I would probably think my ultimate favorite movies, like during the 80s decade, I would probably say, I feel like my ultimate favorite movie of all time, the movie I really enjoyed watching more than the rest back in my day, it was, I think my number one was the National Lampoon's Vacation. It was my number one, I would say. And another movie that I really loved in the 80s decade, it was Flight of the Navigator as well. But you know, there's a lot of movies I liked, you know, back in that time. But it's to name these couple that I know were like my ultimate favorites ever. I know those two, but I also like that one movie, 3 O'Clock High. I mean, it's like I said, there was a lot of movies that I did really love. But I know that off the bat, or off the top of my head, those two were basically my favorites back then. And then what are other movies? Well, I liked Ghostbusters and Back to the Future, all that stuff. And then, you know, well, and then I loved the Schwarzenegger movies. I loved the well, The Running Man. I especially liked that movie. But of course, those are the 80s. But now, I mean, if we're talking about any movie in general, I mean, in any year, other movies that I really loved. If it's not talking about 80s, if it's talking about 80s and below, other movies that I really liked was Beware the Blob. That's one of my favorite movies, but I was terrified of that movie when I was a kid. But I mean, today though, it's like one of my favorites of all time now. Other movies was like the Earthquake, you know, the movie Earthquake, you know, like the older ones. I liked a lot of those disaster movies, you know, like, in general. But now, if we're talking about the 90s, movies that I liked in the 90s that I can remember, I guess The Lion King, or movies like those, and, well, Jurassic Park, you know, I mean, there's a number of movies that I've heard of. I think I liked mostly, like, the cartoon-type movies, like Aladdin. Well, I did not see Aladdin, but I know, I mean, I liked the movie Flubber. I mean, a lot of these movies, I like them when I see them, but it's not like something that I like so much that I would want to see again and again. I don't know of any 90s movies that I like so much that I want to see it again and again, but I do know that I've had a number of these 80s movies that I liked so much that I wanted to see it again and again. Another movie, too, that I liked, too, is Rocky 3, but my brothers are the ones that really liked that show. I mean, Rocky 3, but I liked it enough to want to watch it more than a few times, because it was that time back in 83, I think it was, or 82, or one of those 2 years, where one time, like, we went to the theater to see that Rocky 3 movie like 3 times, or 4 times in a row, you know, yeah. Also, of course, another movie I really like too is Superman, you know, Superman and Superman 2. I really liked that Superman 2 game, or movie. And the other movie too is Popeye. I liked Popeye, you know, like by Robin Williams. I liked that movie too. I mean, there's a lot of movies that I really liked, that I really liked, you know, back in that time, you know. So I'm thinking of others. So, I mean, that's everything I can think off the bat. That, I mean, I do know, so to answer that question that I commonly get, what were my favorite movies of all time during the 80s decade, I would say those two, basically, you know. I liked, I mean, I liked The Flight of the Navigator and National Lampoon's Vacation. Those two movies are probably one of my all-time favorites, or movies that I just loved back in the time, you know. So, I mean, that would be, so that's for the answer right there for me, and that's for what I liked, what my favorite movies was during the 80s decade, you know. So, but for the 90s, it's going to be mostly these cartoon type movies like Lion King or one of those. It's those types. But I don't know about the recent movies. Like I mean, I liked Beauty and the Beast, the newest one that came out like what, a couple years ago or so. I liked that show. And then, I mean, what are some recent ones that I've seen? But I just didn't like them like I did of the 80s. I mean, I have not watched any of the newer movies today and liked it enough to want to watch it again and again. And not as of yet, but as of now, I mean, like I've been watching movies lately, a lot of movies lately on the VCR. I've been doing a lot of this lately, you know. And Flubber is a pretty good one. And what's another movie that I watched in the recent well, I watched the what was that movie I watched? I watched the show Blew Up the Kid. Honey, I Blew Up the Kids. I liked the show Honey, I Shrunk the Kids too. I mean, what's another? I mean, and then I also liked I also really liked that show Fantastic Voyage too. It's from 1966, where they explore inside of the human body, you know. This is a movie I just watched the other day, and only a couple weeks ago I watched this, and it's the first time I ever saw this movie, so I mean, it was pretty good. It was kind of funny in some way, in its ways. And then other ones. I mean, of course, Wizard of Oz, it's one movie. It's an older movie, but something that I really loved, too, you know. And maybe even some of these cartoon, I love these cartoon type movies, you know. Then of course, like I say, I liked Police Academy, and I liked let me see, well, The Blob, of course, Superman, and what else did I loved all of those movies, and even some of the horror movies too, you know. Well, anyway, so that should wrap it up for this video. So hope you liked this one. And you could be on a lookout for my live today, at any time today. It might be, I don't know when, it could be in the next hour, I don't know. So be on a lookout for my next live. I usually do it on Fridays and Sundays, but it's mood warrant though. So, okay, alrighty.